back to the 416, the interview series podcast. And with me today is Scott Kelley. We are in Brockport, New York, and have been for this week. So we are taking the opportunity, and I'm glad for you to sit down with me and just talk about the work here a little bit. But first, introduce yourself and your role here at the Brockport congregation.
Okay. So, as he said, I'm Scott Kelley. I've been the minister for the congregation technically since 1999, so it's been about 25 years. More or less full-time since 2016, when I decided I was kind of done with factory work and decided it was time to, we had been kind of switching back and forth with some of the men sharing the pulpit and taking our turns. And we decided it was time to have somebody maybe a little more focused on the work. And I was ready to kind of stop working in the factories. And so the timing worked out well. And so, I spoke with the congregation. They asked me if I would take on the work full time. And we talked about salary and all that necessary stuff. You still have to pay the bills. And they said, well, it looks like this isn't, of course, I was heavily involved in the money, so I kind of had an idea how much they couldn't afford to pay me. So I said, I may have to do something else to support myself. And so I thought, what could I do that would still allow me the time to be able to put into the work and yet make sure that I had health insurance and all those necessary things. And so I decided to start training to be a school bus driver. And so that has provided a little extra income, plus some New York State retirement benefits and things like that come along with that. And the main thing was my health insurance. And so that's worked out pretty well. Like I said, it's been since 2016 that we've been doing that. I remember the day we talked about it, I came home and I asked my wife, I said, what do you think about being a preacher's wife? As I said, we had 2 or 3 men that we'd kind of taken turns doing the preaching and sometimes have guest speakers come in. So I really had been preaching since 2019. I was kind of the staple that had been there from that time. I had one brother that was with me for a while, Brother Jeff Webb. And we kind of took on the work in 1999 when we found ourselves without a preacher. And things didn't go quite as we'd planned, as God always has a plan for us, Unfortunately, Jeff had pancreatic cancer and passed away, and that left me alone. But soon after that, we had another brother that came along and had some experience preaching, so he joined in with me and we took turns. And so we've kind of, struggled along with the congregation. And then, like I said, in 2016, that's really when I kind of took over full time, when the others had other places to go. One of them moved out to Oregon. The other one moved into Rochester. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. We have, a congregation of usually about 20 people on an average Sunday. And we have our Wednesday night Bible study on Zoom. Which makes it nice because we're kind of spread out. I know a lot of congregations are spread out, but especially in the wintertime and a lot of older members that wouldn't make the trek otherwise. So we have, or they would make the trek, but we really didn't feel it was safe for them. So COVID, of course, took a hit on every congregation, I think, but it affected us in a positive way because I was forced to learn how to use Zoom so that I could share the services, and we found out all about the prepackaged communion package and so forth, all that stuff that we didn't know about before. So that actually, what started out to be a negative thing actually turned out to be a positive, because we do have some shut-ins that have been able to join us now on Sunday mornings for our worship services, and our Wednesday nights, especially in the wintertime, it's much safer for our members to not have to drive out there in the conditions in the Western New York weather that we get here.
All right, and you mentioned Western New York, so I know we're not far from Rochester.
Right.
We're also not very far. It's about an hour and maybe 10, 15 minutes away from Niagara Falls. And so in the northwestern portion of New York is where we are, which is, there's a lot of farm country as we've been traveling through. We've seen a ton of farms. It's very beautiful land. And but we've met a lot of folks, and just coming through. Everybody's been super nice. The congregation's very nice. And so, this is why we do this, is to try to highlight or spotlight, congregations and good works in the brotherhood and so forth. But this is definitely an area, and people come to the area to visit, to either go to Niagara or different things. But there's also SUNY Brockport, you said, was right here. So,
Yep.
The State University of New York is right here in town as well. So that is probably a good opportunity. I know that y'all have just had a young family obey the gospel as well, and so that's a good opportunity. And so there's a lot of good things going on in a congregation that has had a long-standing history in the community already. And so I see it as good opportunities. Especially with what's where you are right now. If you could talk about the work and some of the things that you hope to maybe accomplish, some goals over the next maybe 5-10 years, kind of some of those things, just so you can kind of spotlight the area for others that might be interested in what's in this area, how is the congregation in this area. And I know it's not a large congregation, but certainly there are workers there. So just talk to that a little bit, and just so others can kind of know about the Brockport area.
Yeah, so the congregation actually started around 1969 as a branch out from the Lawson Road congregation in Rochester.
Okay.
There was a couple that, or actually it was a woman and her daughter that were members of the church. They had been away for a while, mainly because there wasn't a congregation nearby. The preacher from the Lawson Road congregation found out about it, came out, worked with them, studied with them, restored them, and then said, this would be a good place to plant a work. Back in the late 60s, there was something called the Exodus movement. I don't know if you ever heard of the Exodus movement, but the Northeast was largely without Churches of Christ. I grew up in an area where first time I heard about the Church of Christ was just not too long before I was baptized. I'd never even heard there was such a thing. And so there's a lot of denominationalism in this area. And so it was important that we have a congregation kind of on the west side of Monroe County. Now I live we're actually in Orleans County right now at your camper here. This is actually Orleans County. And Orleans County doesn't have a single congregation of the Lord's Church. So, long term, I would see that as a goal, that we would have a congregation a little bit further west of here. We have members that come from Genesee County. There's no congregations in Genesee County. Actually, I take that back. I believe, I'm not sure if Warsaw is Genesee County, but they're few and far between.
Right.
Then we have the Rochester area. There's 3 or 4 congregations in the immediate Rochester area, and we're kind of on the outskirts of that. So I see our congregation having a great opportunity for perhaps a campus ministry at some time, because we do have the college there. I mean, it's literally like a half a mile from our church building. We have a lot of student housing right nearby, which is good and bad. We've had people come in who were members of the church that their parents brought them to college and said, we wanted to bring them to the congregation, introduce them to the congregation. We've had them be here, but 4 years later they graduate and they're not there anymore. Then of course there's the other stuff that comes along with a college campus environment. There's a lot of other things in the neighborhood, but we have we've done fairly well as far as that. So I think my plan, and again they say if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. Okay, so my plan is in a couple of years I'm going to be 65, and so I'm looking at retirement from the standpoint of collecting a salary. At which point we were hoping to be able to bring on maybe somebody from one of the preaching schools or something like that, which is where when I was talking to you, that kind of sounded like a good opportunity, something we might even be able to start laying the groundwork for now, being that that's only a couple of years away. And I think I've been with the congregation. I know the congregation very well. I've been with them since 1984. When I was actually 1985, I was baptized in 1984, and so I see that as an opportunity for us to bring in maybe some new energy, right? Some new ideas within the confines of the scriptures, of course. And so that's something that I'm kind of looking forward to, is being able to take what I know about the congregation and what I have learned in my time with the congregation and share that with somebody new coming in that maybe could help take us to that next level, maybe some more we've tried some various mailings and things like that,
Yeah.
and mostly gotten negative responses, like, don't, please stop sending this stuff to my house and
Right.
things like that. So it's not an area that's very receptive to the gospel. A lot of people are very content with what they're doing, and of course, when they have children, a lot of times, now sports and everything happens on the Sunday, because that's just another day of the week that they can tie up with other things, and so it's hard to get that commitment. It's really a difficult area up here. One of the things that I was glad to hear from your ministry, I think we spoke about this the other day, was there seems to be a lot of focus on offshore missionaries, and that is very important. I mean, there certainly is a need, and and people are starving for the gospel in some areas. The Northeast tends to be an area that could use a lot more work, I believe, as far as spreading the gospel in this area. And so having I'll call it a domestic ministry. I don't know if that's what you're.
I've just been called stateside missionary.
Stateside missionary. Yep. I think that's very important. Just a few years ago, I was talking to somebody about that. I said, it seems like we've got some of these larger congregations that seem to be sending their money overseas, and there's a lot of work to do here in the Northeast. And especially, I mean, stateside altogether, but Northeast especially.
And that's certainly an area that we kind of knew already would be, a target area for us in that sense. We out west and Northeast, would be two definite targets for us in this particular work. And you touched on the difficulty of the area, thinking about, and I think this is probably something that a lot of areas, because of sports and different things like that, there's just a lack of commitment for anything real religious to begin with. And certainly I think we could spend some time, and there needs to be a lot of time spent in the Northeast. And so by highlighting this, we're hoping we get some energy and some ideas that may be flowing, and with people thinking about, okay, well, we could go up there, even if they would commit for a couple years to come, to a particular area and work and help, even if they're not the minister there. But if a family wanted to move and help and do that, what a benefit that would certainly be in the kingdom. And so, well, Scott, thank you for sitting down with me for just a few minutes and just talking about the work. And thank you for your hosting this week and letting us to come in here and to be here with you. It was a joy to be with the Brockport congregation. They're really they're very encouraging, and there's an energy that's there, and so I'm excited for that and excited for the opportunities, and certainly we want to keep following up with that as well. So, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I just wanted to say, I appreciate you coming, and you taught our Wednesday night class and our Sunday morning class and our Sunday. I don't get a lot of breaks, so that was actually refreshing. So we appreciate your energy and what you're doing, and your lovely wife just stepped up. We appreciate you as well.
So
yep, she's got a question. She always has a question.
What is your favorite local coffee shop to go to?
So I'm probably not the right person to ask, because I'm one of those one cuppers. I drink 1 cup in the morning of coffee, and that's it. So I'm not a big like specialties coffee.
Some coffee, so.
Yeah, so certainly Wegmans has a lot of choices. You found Grinds. That's a local grocery store. Yep. They've spread. They've actually, I think, gone to Pennsylvania now, so they've kind of grown out. But it started right here in the Rochester area, and then Grinds. You found Grinds, and did you find Java Junction? That was on Main Street.
We did not find it.
Yep. So that's on Main Street. It's just a little ways south of the canal bridge that's out. So you got to kind of zigzag a little bit to get there. But yeah, those are the places that everybody tells me, if you like specialty coffees, those are the places to go.
Well, thank you.
So yeah.
There you go.
And thanks for hosting us this week. It's just been wonderful.
Yeah, it has. It's been fantastic. We appreciate you guys.
Near Niagara Falls, it's worth the drive over to Brockport.
That's right. Everybody thinks New York. They think New York City. We're like 8 hours from New York City, but we're a little over an hour from Buffalo and Niagara Falls. And everybody thinks Buffalo and snow, but you look outside right now, it's 70 degrees and breezy, and the sun's shining. It's a beautiful day here. We get a lot of really good weather, even in the wintertime. We're in kind of a good spot here, sheltered a little bit by I guess they call it the Niagara Peninsula.
There you go.
So yeah, we're in a good spot here. So don't worry about the snow.
Just come on and visit. That's what he's saying.
Come on and visit. That's it.
There you go. Well, thank you for joining us for the 416 interview series.